Welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again. You are listening to The Account, bringing you the news report for day 330 of the war in Ukraine. Today I gathered quite a few articles regarding additional military aid to Ukraine by other countries. I will go over those articles first in an extra segment and also add the ongoing issue with the Leopard tanks. I also have one article I want to point out. Else, no major event has happened today, so we will go over the usual minor updates grouped into the situation inside Ukraine, the occupied territories, Russia and Belarus, and the international developments. First though, the flashpoints along the front. Svatove. Novosibirsk is liberated. Ukraine managed to clear the settlement yesterday. According to Russian and Ukrainian sources, Ukrainian units reached the local train station and are waiting for reinforcements to continue towards Kuzemivka. The road leading north to Volodymyrivka, marked here, is also secured by Ukrainian forces. Soledar. We have conflicting reports about the capture of Krasnopolivka by Russia. According to National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communication in the White House, John Kirby, fierce battles are raging near the towns of Soledar and Bakhmut, Donetsk Oblast. However, US intelligence denies Russia has full control over any of these settlements. As a reminder, the UK Ministry of Defense intelligence update today assesses that Russian forces were likely in control of Soledar. Bakhmut. Russia continues its almost mindless attacks against Ukrainian fortifications in Bakhmut. Wagner claimed on Telegram Klishchivka was captured, but it is highly doubtful. It seems more likely that after failed attempts on Klishchivka, Russian units are trying to bypass the settlement now. And now for the article by the Wall Street Journal I wanted to point out. It is titled, Russian Spy or Ukrainian Hero? The Strange Death of Denis Kiryeyev. The shooting of Denis Kiryeyev, one of the advisors to the Ukrainian negotiation delegation, whom the Security Service of Ukraine had accused of allegedly committing treason, occurred due to poor coordination between Ukrainian secret services at the beginning of the war. It was revealed that Kiryeyev had warned Ukrainian intelligence about Moscow's plan to capture Kyiv on the eve of the Russian invasion. His tip gave Ukraine a few vital hours to move troops and defend the city. President Volodymyr Zelensky awarded him a medal posthumously for his exceptional contribution to the protection of state sovereignty and state security. If you do not have access to the Wall Street Journal, the Liga.net article includes a lot of the details. And to start the news segment, the latest updates regarding military aid to Ukraine and the ongoing Leopard issues. The Tallinn Pledge. 9 European nations have signed a joint statement known as the Tallinn Pledge. In it, they declare Ukraine will receive unprecedented military aid, including helicopters, anti-aircraft weapons, and hundreds of armored vehicles, including Leopard tanks. Tomorrow, at a meeting at the Ramstein Air Base in Germany, the countries will announce their planned donations to Ukraine. The pledge has been signed by the following countries: Denmark, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, United Kingdom, Netherlands. A new military aid package by the US military may amount to $2.6 billion and will include about 100 Stryker vehicles and at least 50 Bradley armored vehicles. Sweden will transfer about 50 CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles and Archer self-propelled artillery systems to Ukraine. This was reported by the Minister of Defense of the country, Paul Jonsson. Estonia announced the transfer of the largest package of military aid to Ukraine. It includes dozens of 155 and 152mm caliber howitzers, thousands of shells, trucks for transporting ammunition, and more than 100 Carl Gustaf anti-tank grenade launchers and more than 1,000 rounds for them. Denmark, as requested by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, will donate 19 French-made Caesar 155mm self-propelled howitzer artillery systems to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Polish Prime Minister stated, should Germany not give its consent for Poland to supply Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, it will simply do the right thing. He believes that after many of Ukraine's allies, but not Germany, have volunteered to give tanks to the armed forces of Ukraine, Berlin's consent is only of secondary importance. Two top Republicans, Michael McCaul and Mike Rogers, have criticized the Biden administration and European allies for not supplying critical weapon systems to Ukraine. They write, The current hand-wringing and hesitation stinks of the weak policies of 2021. Leopard 2 tanks, Army tactical missile systems, and other long-range precision munitions should be approved without delay. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Foreign Affairs Minister Dmytro Kuleba and Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov have called on countries that currently have Leopard 2 tanks in service to provide them to Ukraine. Moving on to the situation inside Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky said during his speech at the Ukrainian breakfast in Davos he is not sure that Russian President Vladimir Putin is still alive. He noted that he does not understand who in Russia can make decisions and with whom to engage in possible peace negotiations. According to Ukrenergo, while the power consumption is expected to be lower than Wednesday thanks to warmer weather, a significant shortage remains in the system. Consumption limits continue. The Operational Command South explained that the entire Black Sea coastline has been fortified to prevent a possible Russian landing. Sea lanes have been mined, weapons are ready to keep ships at a distance, and anti-air defenses have been deployed. As of this morning, 10 adults and 6 children are still in the hospital after sustaining injuries caused by a helicopter crash which killed the leadership of the Ministry of Internal Affairs yesterday. The official death toll for the attack on the apartment block in the city of Dnipro has officially risen to 46. And now a look at the latest out of the occupied territories. According to the National Resistance Center, Ukrainian partisans eliminated a group of Russian soldiers in the occupied settlement of Kirillivka, Zaporizhia Oblast. A look at the latest news updates from Russia and Belarus. Responding to President Zelensky's remarks we discussed earlier, Dmitry Peskov, press secretary for Russian President Vladimir Putin, stated that Vladimir Putin does and will exist, and that it will be better for Ukraine to give up everything anti-Russian. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, has told Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that he is pleasantly surprised by Ukraine. According to him, Ukraine do not engage in any provocations against Belarus, even though it is actively being pushed towards it. The European Jewish Congress has demanded an apology for the statements made by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov yesterday. As a reminder, yesterday Lavrov compared Russia to the Jews and the West to Hitler and Napoleon. And to wrap up the news segment, the latest international developments. Citing several unnamed US officials, the New York Times writes that following months of negotiations between Ukraine and the US, the Biden administration seems to be warming up to the idea of helping Ukraine regain Crimea. According to the officials, the Biden administration now believes that if the Ukrainian military has what it needs to threaten Russia's occupation of Crimea, Ukraine's future negotiation position will be stronger. The European Union's Parliament has adopted a resolution calling on member states to back the creation of a special international tribunal to judge Russian war crimes committed in Ukraine. According to Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, Iran does not recognize the annexation of the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories by Russia. However, Iran believes that the reason for the Russian war against Ukraine is provocative actions by NATO and some Western countries. Hungary has blocked the allocation of a 500 million aid package to Ukraine from the European Peace Fund, which is intended for military aid, a high-ranking diplomat has told RMF24, a Polish news agency. The veto is causing growing outrage among EU diplomats, as there is no justification other than that Hungary favors Russia. And now for the daily intelligence updates, starting as usual with the UK Ministry of Defence. Russia is likely considering deploying a small number of its new T-14 Armata main battle tanks in Ukraine. In late December 2022, imagery showed T-14s on a training area in southern Russia. The site has been associated with pre-deployment activity for the Ukraine operation. This followed pro-government Russia media outlets claiming T-14s were being prepared for deployment. However, it is unclear whether Russia has yet moved the type into Ukraine. Any T-14 deployment is likely to be a high-risk decision for Russia. 11 years in development, the program has been dogged with delays, reduction in planned fleet size, and reports of manufacturing problems. An additional challenge for Russia is adjusting its logistic chain to handle T-14 because it is larger and heavier than other Russian tanks. If Russia deploys T-14s, it will likely primarily be for propaganda purposes. Production is probably only in the low tens, while commanders are unlikely to trust the vehicle in combat. Moving on to the latest assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner PMC, is increasingly escalating his verbal attacks on the Russian Ministry of Defense. Especially after new guidelines for soldiers regarding use of personal electronic devices and new grooming standards were published, Prigozhin defended many line soldiers. He criticized the standards, noting that beards are customary for Muslims and Orthodox Christians, and suggested the use of smartphones and tablets as necessary for modern warfare. He was quoted as saying, "War is the time of the active and courageous, and not of the clean-shaven who turned in phones to the warehouse." Prigozhin went on to directly attack the administration of President Putin and out-of-touch officials. The researchers point out that Prigozhin and others in Russia have begun creating a new space to criticize Vladimir Putin without consequences. And finally, the evening update by the General Staff of Ukraine, which today is rather short once you remove the shelling report. The enemy continues to suffer significant losses in manpower. In particular, in Novosvitlivka in the Luhansk region, the local hospital houses more than 200 wounded from among the recently forcibly mobilized residents of the temporarily occupied territories of the Luhansk region. And another report is finished. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. Links to all articles mentioned can be found in the description. You were listening to The Account. Have a great day. Slava Ukraini.